Hello, everybody. Today we are going to do a fairly quick tour of this thing that I've built in Minecraft. If you are not a major Star Trek fan, and I suppose you have to be a fairly, big Star Trek fan to know what this is, just from, the reality of what it is. This is the Daedalus class starship. This was a class of ship that was in service with Starfleet, which is the mostly human but the good guys in why mouse disconnected. Oh no. Okay, we're back after long last. I don't know what that was. Anyway. So the Daedalus class, it was a ship class that was in service after the wars with the Romulans. It was one of the first Federation starships. It is canon, but the design is sort of side canon. You can think of it as, in that nobody on screen points to this ship and says that is a Daedalus class. But this design is in canon still. I mean, I don't know why I'm getting into this. Nobody's going to care about the intricacies of Star Trek canon, especially because the writers don't. But yeah, I mean, this is my version. The length that's given in a lot of, in air quotes, official sources is 105 meters. That is really, really small to me. I tried to build it at 105 and put, a reasonable amount of stuff in, and it did no work. 105 meters, there's no room for nothing. So this is, I think, 140 meters, 150, something like that. It's a big boy, but not as big a boy as some things. That's another project. But yeah, I figured just make a somewhat quick video tour of this thing. And we'll start in the very back. So this is the ship's shuttle bay. So if you're coming in aboard a small ship, this is before transporters were useful, because in the original series, transporters were considered new, but then Enterprise totally ruined that by having transporters. Like I say, nobody cares about Star Trek canon, especially the people that write Star Trek. And it's annoying. If you can't tell, I am something of a Star Trek fan. In case the build didn't clue you in. But yeah, so this is the ship's, shuttle bay, hangar complex. It's decent size. You can't carry that much stuff, but, what you can carry is there. There's 2 shuttles right here. These are, storage pads for shuttles that are ready to be launched, but you don't need them. And then these are little work bees, so these are, vehicles that you need when something breaks outside. You can put a guy in there and you have robot arms and thrusters and things like that, so it's a bit safer. This is the lower bay where you have vehicles stored. So these are vehicles that are fully powered off. You're not going to need them for a little while. This is where they can be stored, and then obviously this is the lift that brings them from above to below. Then there's some elevators there that connect to the other side. Then this is the cargo bay, but I'm not going to get into that just yet. This is a walkway that goes from a sort of waiting reception area. And then you walk down here. This does have a full interior, by the way. And this is how you get to those work bees. You just kind of get down there and climb down. And this is where you actually direct your shuttles. So you're in this room and you tell shuttles, hey, speed up 5%, slow down, move to the right, this amount, kind of stuff. So just a kind of small little area. Now I suppose we can get to the cargo bay. But yeah, I mean, and these are pretty simple little shuttles. These are based on the shuttles from Enterprise, but obviously there's only so much you can do in Minecraft. And now we're in the cargo bay. So basically you can dock up there, unload cargo, and then it can be brought down. So this is where all of the like food, water, equipment that the crew would use during a really long mission, this is where it would be stored, or at least where a lot of it would be stored. And to reflect that, I built these like little pallet things out of random blocks. This is deck 13. This is the lowest deck. The ship does have a elevator system. It's called turbolifts in Star Trek, and it has two. It has a lift right here in the lower, the lower hull, and then that spherical main bit up front has another lift, and they're not connected on this ship. But, I mean, you can fit a decent amount in this cargo bay. And there's other bays scattered around. After this bay, you have a sort of upper, like, lip area for cargo. Like, you can put more cargo here and there. And this just connects to the lower shuttle bay. Let me in. There we go. So yeah, not too much going on in this deck or the deck below, aside from, like, it is more cargo. Then there is, well, I want to get to that later, actually. So then you're on to deck 9. This is an airlock. Yeah, this is the shuttle bay. So basically, you come in from the shuttle bay, you have, like, spacesuit storage in here. There used to be a bunch of armor stands with stuff on them. However, when I transferred this world from Bedrock to Java Edition, it deleted them. And there's some other wonkiness, so just bear with me. But yeah, port airlock. This is the lift. Elevator, I guess. The starboard airlock. Right there. And then we can go back here. And we can... Well, hang on. Let's keep with the theme here. Oh yeah, this is deck 7, and this is the ship's antimatter storage. So in Star Trek, ships get power, well, except for the Romulans. Ships derive their power from matter-antimatter reactors. So just picture an enormous explosion, and that's what happens when you mix antimatter with matter. So it needs to be contained in, like, magnetic fields and things like that. So there's, like, shielding through here, and it's really delicate stuff. So that's where it's stored because of that. Now, I think we can just carry on through. I know this is kind of a convoluted design, but bear with me. It's a big ship. So this is where the ship's manager of the small craft can be, so he can kind of make notes and make maintenance schedules and flight logs and things like that. This is his little office workspace. There is a head. One of the things that I like to do is include places for crew to, like, use bathrooms. That's something that sci-fi ships really don't have. Like, I think if you look at an official plan for the Millennium Falcon, there is no bathroom on the ship, which is wild to me. So, you know, I like to include that where I can, as somebody that likes to you know, visit the Oval Office. This is the purser. The purser is kind of in charge of, like, what cargo the ship carries. So, like, the ship's cook would go to the purser and say, hey, I'm taking out this amount of Arby's frozen beef patties, and the purser would make a note of that and subtract the 50 pounds from however much the ship had. This is the lift maintenance. So if we go back here, you see this little thing here. So this is where the lift can go into when you need to do some work on the elevator. Kind of goes in there. Because I try to think, like, what would the ship actually need? And like I said earlier, this is a little lounge that you can sit if you're waiting for a shuttle. I am going to drop down here now. So this is the ship's engine room. Yeah, so engine room right here. Fairly big engine, so the engine is like the chamber where the matter and the antimatter mix and do big booms. And then this is the like power collector array that actually derives power from Big Bang. So you can kind of walk around it. On the sides here, there's like little areas. Again, these used to be like paintings, but when it transferred, it deleted the paintings. Not all of them, which is really weird. But yeah, there's little nooks in here. This is actually the writing of the ship on the outside. Actually. Yeah, so this would be like the ship's name. You, of course, wouldn't be able to see that if you're in the ship. But, you know, it's Minecraft. So... there is, as you see, an underlevel. And this is just more of the same, like monitoring and maintenance access ways and things like that. So nothing too crazy. But I am pretty happy with this engine on the whole. Like, I think it turned out pretty nicely. And then there is a way to... Isn't there? I thought there was. Yeah. So this is how you get to the engine from above. So right here. So now we're on... What are we? Deck 8. This is that elevator shaft again. And this is sort of a mixture of crew quarters and escape pods for if the ship needs to be evacuated. So you would just kind of crawl in there, and presumably there's an escape pod behind it. Same as over here. And then you have some crew quarters. The crew don't have, like, the best cabins, but, you know, it's 4 people in here. They've got, like, a little table, or, like, a little sitting area. Not that much space, but, you know, what are you gonna do? Like, same in there. Just identical crew little cabin areas. So they don't live in, like, luxury, but, you know, you have, like, a place to sleep, and then you're expected to spend your off time elsewhere. Strange new life forms right there. Again, I like to have, like, bathrooms, because that makes the ships feel more complete, in my mind. And it's the same over here, like, crew quarters, bathroom. Then there is another escape pod, and then there's a spiral staircase, because I think that's neat, to the decks above. This deck we were on earlier briefly. This is, yeah, deck 6. You know, the little area, the offices. And this is, like, more crew quarters. These are a little bit different arrangement, but the same idea, and there's a little bit more room here. So again, really, the crew cabins are just areas where you can sleep, and that's about it. The ship has a little machine shop with, like, presumably 3D printer, electronics gear, lathes, mills, that sort of thing in there. So they can make materials as they need them. Maintenance access, so this is where you do, like, maintenance on the ship's life support or gravity or whatever would be in there. This is a multi-mission module, so you can actually rip this out of the ship and put a new one in, and the different modules can be, like, more cabin space for more crew, or they can be a science lab, or they can be, you know, cargo, or just whatever. There's another module right there. This is the engineering briefing room, so this is where the engineering staff would be brought in, and the chief engineer would say some words like, hey boys, we've got, you know, an hour to do a 5-day job, so let's get to it, kind of stuff. Staircase down. Again, bathroom. Yeah. And then now we are in Le Neck. So this is that connecting bit that connects the spherical main hull and the secondary hull. And it also connects the nacelles that generate the field that lets the ship go faster than light. And the nacelles actually have a full interior as well. And this looks kind of neat to fly through. And when I was building this, it's possible I spent way too much time flying through it. As you do. We'll go back in here now, very helpfully. Wait, no, I want creative. There we go. Okay. And there's some like observation areas that you can sit and look at stuff. And now we are in that hull, that's the sphere, the little Death Star guy. And these are the ship's showers, so there's heads scattered around, but this is where you go to get like clean. There is, one for each of the, There is one for each, there's one so everybody feels comfortable, I'll say, I guess. And then this is that other lift that I was talking about, and we'll get to that in just a second. So it's the same for the ladies. Warrant officers. So warrant officers are a little bit higher rank than the normal crew. They're between officers and enlisted, so they have 2 to a room as opposed to 4, and they have a little bit more personal space. And so this entire ring is just like, it's crew quarters. Like these crew have a little bit more room than the others. But, it's crew and warrant officer quarters for the most part. And it doesn't quite wrap around because there's something in the middle here that we'll get to. And it's the same right here. So, like crew. This is, we'll go into life support first. So this is the life support section for the whole ship. So like this is all of the breathable air that the crew needs. This is the water that they need. This is like adjust the humidity throughout the ship, that kind of stuff. All through here. And then this is the ship's missile bay. So the ship has a pair, Okay. So the ship has a pair of missile launchers. Daedalus isn't primarily a warship, but she does have armament. And so her main kind of armament is these 2 missile tubes right here. And there's a fairly large room given over to them right in here. And basically what you've got is just the tubes themselves right here, and then like a row of missiles. So this is mostly automated, but if you need to get in here, then you can. And the ship also has, like, lasers. So it's not, like, crazy well-armed, but it's, it's Starfleet, so the idea is armament enough to make a potential foe think twice, ideally. Then there is this lowest deck. This lowest deck is mostly like some basic engineering areas, more escape pods. This is the lift maintenance for the pod for this section. Then you have more escape pods, and then the ship's deflector dish control room is in here. So you just kinda, again on the outside. This would be the ship's deflector. In other later ships from, different periods in the Star Trek timeline, this would be like a glowing dish, but here it's just like a little hole cut away in the ship. And then below is, like, this would be fuel. This would be, like, hydrogen storage. that powers that's the matter that the antimatter reactor uses. And this was all built by hand as well. So there's another little control platform in there. So not that much going on this deck, on deck, 7. We've been down there. We have not been up here. Onto deck 5. So here there's another toilet. I try to have one bathroom on each deck. Another little maintenance area, closet space. This is an officer's cabin, so they're pretty much the same as the warrant officers. Not that much distinction cabin-wise. Warrant officers, crew, and crew. And then this would be the ship's computer core, which is above the missile bay. And there's like another level above where you can just kind of do maintenance and access the computer core. Come on, there we go. Yeah, so nothing too special or crazy down here. But a decent amount of general stuff. Who's texting? Okay. But yeah. Little area. Because you need to do maintenance on that on occasion. Then deck 4 has the communications room. So this is where, hey, we have coded messages or we have alien signals, and this is where some very talented people would like do numbers and try to cross-reference and decode more where there had been paintings, but they're gone now. Then this, another bathroom for this deck. This is the gravitics lab, so this is where you can study like this, how strong gravity is in different places, because this is a science ship. This deck actually has a lot of the scientific facilities. There's an airlock right here that you can use. A little cargo bay area, not too big, but you do have cargo throughout the ship. So there's no like giant cargo spaces, but there are some areas. This is the auxiliary reactor that powers the ship's impulse drive. Right here. So this is what moves the ship when it's not going faster than the speed of light, is these engines here, and there's actually on the back, there's more impulse reactors here, like little thrusters. But also in an emergency where like the warp reactor is failing, you can actually jettison this whole section here. And I don't know why that's there. And you're left with just the mini Death Star. And that is its own ship, so the crew can be evacuated, and this becomes like a giant lifeboat deal. So kind of neat. Over here, there is... Okay, we've done that already. Yeah, that's right. On this side, there is more labs. So solar and the airlock and another, like, identical little cargo bay area. Because you need, like, cargo and goods. Then we have deck 3. We have a little closet, I guess. Another little closet, I guess. I don't know what I was thinking there. There is warrant officer, more officer cabins, officer. I mean, so that's really what this is. Sorry, it's still early in the morning, and I am a sleepy boy. This is the ship's sick bay. So if you're injured, you kind of go here. There's like a chair that you can go to. This is the chief surgeon's like office, Then he has medical stores behind him. So this is where the good stuff is kept. You have some beds for like recovery or monitoring right there. This is a door that can be removed, and it actually goes into the ship's not cafeteria. What's the term? We'll find out. Mess, or the galley. So where the crew eat. So it connects there. So if you have like a lot of injured or sick people, you can open that up and turn this into like a overflow. But yeah, this is where if you're on the crew, this is where you eat a meal. Probably with your friends. There's a galley back here where you cook, do all that fun stuff, and then you can serve over the counter. The crew's not that crazy, so it's not impossible to feed them all. And then there's like, bathroom. There's more officers, cabins, officers, warrant officers, all of that stuff. So really not that crazy in terms of stuff being there, but it's all right. And now we're on deck 2, so this is just below the bridge. So the captain has a fairly nice view behind the ship. I think he's the only member of the crew that also has his own cabin, although I might be wrong. I forget. So he has like a little area to sleep. He has like an office desk area all to his own. There's another officer cabin. Officers. More officers. The armory. So this is where, like, we're going to take care of business. This is where you keep the equipment. More officers. Bathroom. And this is the officers' wardroom. So this is where the officers have like some space to themselves, like a little reading nook area. I think this is supposed to be an arcade machine equivalent. They have like a little area to sit. So like some space to themselves. Keep going this way. More officers. More... Oh, the ship's laundry is up here as well, so this is where all of the clothes of the ship are brought, the crew, and cleaned. There's a random lab in here because you need all the space you can get. And then this is the conference room. So this is the, I need all of my officers in this room quickly. This is where you bring them, and then you can do meetings and things like that. So fairly important room. And then we can get on to this area, and this just wraps around the bridge, which is behind here. And I think in my head these are supposed to be escape pods, but I just didn't have room to do anything else with it. So this is what you get. But yeah, then this is the bridge. So we have Cairo Fleet Yards, the ship's name, and it's a fairly typical Star Trek bridge. So this is where the captain sits, and then he has a bunch of people around him that do different things. So nothing too crazy. Honestly, I think that wraps it up. Thank you for sticking through this relatively long YouTube video. I hope you enjoyed this tour. I enjoyed it. That doesn't mean that you did. I have, of course, more ships to tour. If that's your thing, like I've got one there, I've got some there, I've got a project behind. But yeah, this was the look at the Daedalus class cruiser from Star Trek Side Canon with a full interior. So there it is, I guess. I hope this wasn't a waste of your time.